there's no doubt that the 60 that the Leafs have are good. They're good at what they do. I think they need to add something different. So could we see a hockey trade? And I don't know which one's going out, but a name that pops in my head, and I just as an example, doesn't have to be, but a Shane Gotherspierre, a guy that moves the puck, transports the puck. Like, again, it doesn't have to be him, but that's the vision in my head, Frankie, of what I think they need to pair with someone else. Again, it doesn't have to be that player, but just moving the puck beside someone who's a little bit more stay at home to get that puck going up the ice quicker to those forwards.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And you know what's crazy about that, Struddy, is the Leafs could have had Shane Gotherspierre the last 3 or 4 years. Like, he's been on one-year tickets, right? Like, he was on a one-year ticket with Detroit and then Carolina, and it's like those guys, it felt like Toronto had that already, and they were like, we need the tree trunks. We need the guys that Vegas had because we got to clog things up a little bit more. And now if you look at it, it's like you got Tanev McCabe, good shutdown pair. Carlo O'Reilly. Well, you added the big presence with your puck mover. And then, OEL and Benoit, I look at it and I'm like, OEL's on the third pair. He was on the third pair in Florida when they won. So chances are he's slotted right. So I get what you're saying about, having a guy who's like a slick puck mover, but it feels like they've almost tried to like overcompensate for thinking that way for so long that they just said we need to try and get the mutants, and it's tough to get those guys. But yeah, like, why not have someone who breaks the puck out pretty well? What about the power play this year? Like, Mitch Marner was running the power play last year. He was playing the point because they didn't think Morgan Riley could do it, or they didn't think OEL could do it. Marner's gone now. Someone's going to have to run that power play because that's a strength of the team. And so, where does that go to now? Who gets that positioning?
It's a good question. And again, we don't have the answer in the middle of July, but you're right. They were doing, the 5-forward power play into the playoffs last year. They were committed to that. So, I don't picture that happening again. I think they'll go, with Marner gone, they're going to go back to a conventional 4-1. Maybe Riley gets another opportunity there. I think that would benefit him. Again, trying to get some cookies on the power play and feel like you're contributing a little bit more in areas where you're comfortable. But that's why I think it's an unfinished product. Maybe we're looking at the forwards, and it could possibly be Tree Living trying to find a puck-moving defenseman or two.
But furthermore, Anthony Santander, we talked about him last week. I don't know when he's going to return, but if and when he does, if he can supply pop, that's another boost for Ross Atkins. And what he did last offseason, if Max Scherzer stays healthy, which he has been relatively healthy the last few weeks, if he stays healthy, what if he's pitching in the playoffs and pitches really well? All of a sudden, you look back on that signing, and at the time, we were very cynical. Certainly when he was on the 60-day IL, I was very cynical. But if he pitches well down the stretch and performs in the playoffs, that's worth all of $15 million. That's another check for Ross Atkins. So it's a massive, massive opportunity. The trade deadline and then the other guys that he acquired last offseason, if they can show up and they can pop coming down the stretch, all of a sudden, when it comes to the GM rankings in Toronto, Ross Atkins might be at the top of the list.
Which is something I never thought would happen ever in our lifetimes, and yet the possibility is very much there. It is fascinating how sports can be. Finally, Bryan, the Open Championship gets underway Thursday morning right here on TSN. From Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland, the introspective Scotty Scheffler is the favorite, followed up by Rory McIlroy. Bryan, how much pressure is Rory under to perform in his home country of Northern Ireland this weekend? And do you think he ultimately pulls off the victory?
I'm not convinced he's going to win, but I do think there's a lot of pressure on him to make sure he doesn't embarrass himself like he did back in 2019, the last time it was at Portrush where he missed the cut, famously missed the cut. He's had one of the more fascinating seasons in golf history. I mean, when you consider, he won at Pebble Beach, he won the Players in a really cool playoff against J.J. Spaun, which means more now than it did at the time because of what Spaun did at the U.S. Open. And then, of course, he wins the masterpiece at the Masters. He completes the Grand Slam, and that was the moment for him. And that was going to always make this an incredibly memorable year. But winning at Royal Portrush, like an hour outside of his hometown, in Northern Ireland, that puts a bow on the greatest year of his career, undoubtedly. And outside of maybe Tiger Woods in 2000, maybe you could reference another Tiger season here or there, maybe a Spieth year here or there, maybe that great Dustin Johnson year. I'm not even sure if that would matter or that would meet what McIlroy could accomplish here. So it's right there for him to wrap up just an unbelievable all-world season. But I don't think it's about winning. It's about avoiding embarrassment. It's about avoiding, missing the cut. I think that's where the pressure would come in for McIlroy. And he performed really well at the Scottish last week. He seems to be in much better spirits, in much better form. So if he's in the hunt, it just becomes such a massive story because, again, it's in basically his hometown, certainly his home country. And considering what he's already done, the build-up this year and the dip in between, that included the RBC Canadian Open, which is really ugly. Like, it was really ugly for him. It wasn't a good scene. So I do think there's pressure not to embarrass himself, not necessarily to win it. And I don't think he will win it. But if he's in contention, it's going to make for some incredible theater.
Well, we know if Scotty Scheffler wins it, he'll be happy for just a few seconds and then ultimately not that happy anymore after that. Bryan, it's always great to have you on the show. You've been great all season. We will chat to you again and have you chat at us when we return in September, right in time for the National Football League season.
Hot Takes is presented by Harvey's. Customize your burger and get it delivered from our app to your door. Harvey's, it's a beautiful thing.